The movie starts off in 2020, where two armed soldiers pass through the dark forest of Fortune Island, an apparently abandoned island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They are seemingly hunting for something. Suddenly, something in the darkness catches their attention, causing them to scream in fear. Meanwhile, halfway across the globe, Mr. Gary Gao, the owner of Ocean Airlines, proudly inaugurates the first flight of his luxurious new passenger aircraft A390. He has invited famous celebrities and people from the media as VIPs for the grandiose launch of his cutting-edge aircraft. Before the flight takes off, Gary emphasizes to his operations head, Peter, the importance of flawless execution, especially when it comes to serving the billionaire Prince Qadza of Saudi Arabia, their potential investor. Peter assures Gary that he has arranged for the prince's favorite pop star to be on board, ensuring a positive experience for the influential guest. The journey kicks off in Rio with great anticipation, and a grand fanfare is planned for the aircraft's arrival in Hong Kong. Among the VIP passengers are the billionaire Prince Qadza from Saudi Arabia, popular pop singer Colin, award-winning Hong Kong actress Lily Young, retired American sports star Rodman, distinguished journalist Mia Ren along with her cameraman Bob from International News Web, celebrated Sichuan chef Mr. Liu, and the acclaimed blind cellist Kim Woo-nam. Little do the passengers know, Gary and Ocean Airlines are facing severe financial difficulties. Gary has a hidden agenda. He plans to secure Prince Qadza's proposed investment during the flight in a desperate attempt to rescue the company from its financial woes. Just before takeoff, Gary learns that the pop star Peter had invited is none other than his estranged son Colin. The father-son is not on good terms because Gary wanted Colin to pursue business. He wanted his son to be the heir of his business, not an entertainer. It turns out that Colin followed his own path, eventually achieving his dream to become a celebrated singer in the world. It is also revealed that Prince Qadza and Colin went to Yale's together and are in fact close friends. Gary is seemingly furious by the fact that his good-for-nothing son has been invited for the maiden voyage. He even warns his son to not cause any trouble because this trip is very important for him and the company. In the cockpit, pilot Jason, along with co-pilots Ruixin and Zhang, diligently readies the aircraft for takeoff. They meticulously go through the pre-flight checks, ensuring that every instrument and system is in optimal condition. Jason, with years of experience, communicates clearly with his co-pilots, discussing the flight plan and weather conditions. Ruixin, known for her attention to detail, reviews the safety protocols, while Zhang monitors the communication systems to ensure smooth coordination with air traffic control. After switching to autopilot mode, Ruixin checks the lounge area and discovers that Chef Liu fell ill and couldn't join the flight. In his stead, an American named Mike has been sent as a replacement to prepare Chinese cuisine. Gary soon learns about this and once again reprimands Peter for not handling the matters properly. As everyone relishes the various amenities on the luxurious flight, the aircraft suddenly navigates through a significant thunderstorm over the Pacific. It soon encounters a lightning strike, but thankfully, it doesn't damage the critical systems of the plane. Concerned about potential damage, the crew advocates for an immediate landing to inspect the aircraft. Captain Jason, after examining communications with the control tower, affirms that the current route navigates one of the Pacific's least stable areas. This revelation only heightens the urgency of the situation. Initially, Gary, driven by his desire to reach Hong Kong in record time, opposes the crew's plea for an immediate landing. He instructs them to continue the journey at all costs. He also asserts that the A390, being the epitome of commercial aviation sophistication, demands the crew to devise a strategy to navigate through the storm and ensure they reach their destination as scheduled. If they do not follow his orders, then the debut for his sophisticated plane, which costs him $1 million, would all be a big joke. Soon after, as the plane encounters turbulence within the thunderstorm, various systems display discrepancies. The turbulence ride also triggers warning lights in the cockpit. Captain Jason tells his co-pilots that the heightened turbulence may impact fuel efficiency, necessitating an emergency landing. After some discussion, Gary eventually consents to the crew's request to land the plane on the supposedly uninhabited Fortune Island. This decision is driven by the need to assess whether there is any severe damage resulting from the lightning strike. To discreetly execute the emergency landing and avoid attracting attention, Gary opts to disable the plane's location tracker. Despite the intense storm, the crew skillfully guides the A390 to a successful landing on the island. While the passengers are instructed to remain on board, Ruixin and Captain Jason venture outside to inspect the aircraft's engines. Jason observes some mysterious scratch marks on the outer structure of the plane, so he orders co-pilot Zhang to run a diagnostic. Thankfully, there is no internal damage and the plane can be fully functional to reach Hong Kong. As they prepare to re-enter the cabin, Ryuxin notices that journalist Mia Ren and her cameraman Bob have left the cabin without anyone's knowledge. On the other hand, Mia Ren and Bob are filming the island when the latter suddenly stumbles and falls. When he prepares to grab his equipment, he discovers a human carcass. Terrified, he urges Mia Ren to return to the plane. However, she insists on taking video footage of the corpse. Suddenly, an unknown creature attacks Bob from behind and kills him instantly. Ryuxin comes to Mia Ren's rescue and the two women fall on the ground in order to avoid the attack from those creatures. Just then, a vehicle approaches from behind the dark jungle, and the people on board it start shooting the mysterious creatures which turn out to be mutant cats. In the meantime, a multitude of black shadows jump out of the bush and kill Captain Jason. When Ryuxin and Mia Ren are about to be ripped to shreds by the creatures, the approaching vehicle saves them momentarily. On board the vehicle are two armed soldiers, Lieutenant Vincent Riggs and Sergeant Nikki Lee. Swiftly approaching, the soldiers attempt their best to kill the mutant cats, which are only growing in numbers. After learning about the situation, Gary instructs Peter to close down the hatch and hurries Zhang to start the plane engine. Just when Peter closes the hatch, the chef substitute Mike arrives at the scene, punches Peter, and reopens the hatch. On the ground, Ryuxin and Mia Ren are running towards the aircraft, and this is when they discover the lifeless body of Jason. They then hurriedly climb up the hatch ladder, saving themselves from the monsters below. Likewise, the armed soldiers, having killed numerous mutant cats, climb up the stairs and successfully lock the hatch. Once inside the plane, the soldiers claim to have been sent by the Un-Army to eliminate the monsters that are inhabiting the island. They had been held up in a warehouse for the last 2 weeks when suddenly they heard a plane landing nearby. For 2 weeks, they fought really hard until they too were the only survivors. Chef Mike, who used to be in the Special Forces, suspects Vincent and Nikki are not who they say they are. His suspicion only grows when they learn that the communication equipment had been damaged during their last takeoff. Now that the A390's radio communications system is badly damaged, Vincent suggests rerouting the flight to an Army coordination point in the Pacific. He claims that the coordinates lead to a transit airport under the ocean offering supplies and repairs. Despite Mike's doubts about the accuracy of the coordination points, both Ryuxin and Gary dismiss his concerns. Meanwhile, a series of bad things keep happening one after the other. First, Peter follows Vincent and Nikki to the restroom, where the latter two are discussing their ultimate plan. There, he learns their true identity. It turns out that the soldiers are not a part of Un-Forces. Instead, they are here for a personal reason. They have collected a sample of the mysterious island and are planning to sell it to a buyer who is located in the coordinates provided earlier. When Vincent finds Peter overhearing them, he swiftly takes care of him. Peter's dead body is then kept in a closet, which is later discovered by Ryuxin and the rest of the crew. Meanwhile, back in the main lounge area, an air hostess hysterically announces that the famous Hong Kong actress Lily Young is dead. At first, Ryuxin and the crew suspect retired sports star Rodman of being involved in the actress's shocking death. They interview him, citing past knowledge of his behavior when intoxicated. It turns out that Rodman struggles to control his emotions when he's drunk, and he appears quite tipsy at the moment. Amid growing panic and rebellion from Ryuxin and Mike, Vincent and Nikki ultimately unveil their real motives, hijack the plane, and take everyone hostage. They claim to be heading to a retired Nimitz aircraft carrier. But what's worse is that one of the mutant cats has made it to the aircraft during the last takeoff. Apparently, the actress and some of the hostesses were killed by the vicious creatures when they were on the lower deck. Vincent and Nikki then take the rest of the passengers on the upper deck and threaten them to stay put. The crew is then forced to obey their instructions and land on the said coordinates. However, Zhang confirms that there isn't any land nearby, so landing is impossible. Vincent forces him to look properly, and this is when a huge carrier is revealed in the middle of the ocean. The ship turns out to be the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. Despite multiple attempts, Ryuxin skillfully lands the plane on the carrier in a dramatic fashion, clipping the wing in the process. Just when the passengers are instructed to get off the plane, the mutant cat appears on the upper deck. Thankfully, it turns out that the creature is repelled by music, so the blind cellist plays his instrument until most of the passengers make it out of the aircraft safely. Although most survivors make it to the ship's deck, the damaged A390 slides off and sinks into the ocean. Sadly, Zhang also dies during the process, while Ryuxin manages to cling onto the ship's safety net. Mike then helps her to climb up safely. Following this, Vincent instructs Nikki to keep an eye on the hostages, while he ventures below deck to locate Dr. Han. The scientist has promised Vincent a hefty sum of $10 million for the soil sample from the cave where the creatures reside. However, when he enters the ship, he only discovers eerie silence. The absence of other people on the carrier adds to his unease. Vincent eventually locates Dr. Han who discloses that his experiment on the creatures spiraled out of control. The creatures mutated, wiping out everyone on the carrier, and are now multiplying. Han shares that, as a final resort, he engineered the carrier's nuclear power engine to detonate and destroy the experiment and the creatures. Realizing the explosion would jeopardize his chances of claiming the promised $10 million, Vincent rushes to prevent it. However, on his way to the engines, he confronts Mike, who managed to slip away from the deck. A heated confrontation ensues between the two machos as they wrestle in full capacity. During the flight, Mike manages to grab Vincent's gun and aim at him. However, he is unable to open fire because it reminds him of his past. He has flashbacks of wartime and dead soldiers he served with while he was in the army. Seizing this opportunity, Vincent regains his gun and prepares to shoot Mike. Just then, a mutant cat slashes him from the back, rendering him dead on the spot. Mike gets hold of the gun again and successfully kills the creature before heading out to warn others. In the meantime, Ruixin and the others manage to subdue Nikki. She then locates a helicopter nearby and instructs the survivors to board it. By this time, 100 mutant cats make it to the deck and begin chasing the group. While Ruixin prepares the chopper to leave, Colin and the cellist make use of their music to temporarily hold back the creatures. Suddenly, the cello stops playing due to a failed string. The mutant creatures are now more vicious than ever as they prepare to feed on the survivors. Thankfully, Gary arrives with a huge flamethrower, ignites it, and burns the approaching creatures. Following this, Ruixin successfully starts the helicopter, and the survivors manage to get on it. Mike makes his way back up to the deck and narrowly jumps onto the chopper as it leaves the ground. Sadly, Gary sacrifices himself to hold up the mutant cats. His last words to his son remain, "Never sell the Ocean Airlines." As the helicopter flies far away from the carrier, a huge mushroom cloud arises from the horizon. Moments after, the carrier, the whole experiment, and the creatures are destroyed when the carrier engine self-detonates. The movie ends with the survivors promising to go on a vacation where there are no cats. In mid-credit scenes, however, a mutated cat is shown to be hiding on the helicopter.